I just dropped my review of the new Venturing album, Ghost Holding. Venturing being one of several side projects of singer songwriter Jane Remover, who really blew me away with this album right here back in 2023, since it's designated. You'll recall I did a whole video essay about it. And while shoegaze certainly is a word you can use to describe pieces of census designated, it is also a lot of other things. And by comparison, venturing here as a project is much more honed in on the principles and the ideals of shoegaze as a genre. I wouldn't call it quite as indebted to shoegaze history as something like the Julie album from last year. The drums on Ghost Holding are not quite as booming and impactful, and the haze of sonic distortion is a lot glitchier and more synthetic. But at its core is Jane Remover, the achingly vulnerable and still incredibly angsty songwriter, and she has quite a bit to say on this record. Once again, I am pretty delighted looking at this record and breaking it down by the themes that Jane is exploring, talking about the music industry, talking about touring, but more than anything else, talking about love and lust and the loneliness you feel being away from the person that those feelings are directed towards. And she has a lot of interesting ways to frame these feelings. One thing I will say against the record is that it is one of those albums that has a really specific, really recognizable sonic palette to it. And occasionally on its best tracks, particularly some deep cuts in the first half, like No Sleep and Guest House, that allows Jane to dig into the cracks and to do really unique things with this recognizable shoegaze sound. But it also creates a record where the weakest songs just sound like worse versions of the best songs. And that's why I think the 50 or so minutes of music that make up this track list are solid, if a bit inconsistent. There aren't a whole ton of duds, awful moments on the record, but it certainly doesn't have the intrigue of a record like Census Designated, as it's just revolving around such a similar sound for the entire time. But for the most part, I think Jane does good things with it. There's plenty of great hooks, a lot of really interesting sound play, and a lot of great writing on this record. Definitely one that Jane Remover fans will want to hear, even if in the greater scope of her discography, it may go down as just a footnote. Tell me what you thought of the album, and read my full review up here on my blog.